Factories Act. Today we are going to discuss about Factories Act 1948. Let's talk about a brief history of what led to the establishment of Factories Act. In UK because most of the Indian laws they derived from UK. So in UK in the 18th century, especially during the second half, there was a big industrial revolution. A lot of industries, a lot of factories, a lot of manufacturing plants they came into existence, and due to the absence of any proper legislation, the workers were being exploited by the occupiers or by the employers. There was no safety standards, there was no health standards, no cleanliness, so the workers were being exploited. As a result, some of the philanthropists and some of the social workers, even some of the good employers such as Robert Owens, they pressurized the parliament to pass certain legislations. So in UK it led to the establishment of Factories Act. Now in India, the industrial revolution or industrialization, it came after a century when it was there in UK. So in India, the cotton mill was established in 1854. Then in 1870, there was a cotton mill established in Bombay Presidency, and consequently, the Factories Act was enacted in 1881. After which there was a Factories Act in 1911, then consequently in 1934, and ultimately in 1948, the Factories Act came into existence. So this act applies to whole of India, and it came into existence, or the consent was given by the President on 1st April 1949. So the Factories Act, it contains 11 chapters. The first, there are different chapters. The first one is talks about the preliminary definitions. The second one talks about the inspectors. Then the third chapter is on health. Fourth chapter is on safety, etc. So we'll start with a few definitions. In the Factories Act, what is an adult? An adult means a person who has completed 18 years of age. So a workman is major according to the law, and he or she, any male or female, has entered the 18 years of his age. Adolescent means a person who has entered the 15th year of his age and has not completed the 18 years. So in between 15 and 18 is the adolescence period. Child is someone who has not completed 15 years of age. So anyone who is below the age of 15 is a child. Next we'll talk about the calendar year. The calendar year means the period of 12 months, which begins with the first day of January and ends on 31st December. Young person. Who is a young person? Young person means any person who is either a child or an adolescent. So both of these, they comprise a young person. Day means 24 hours, beginning at the midnight. Week is a period of 7 days, beginning at the midnight on Saturday night, or any such night which may be approved in writing for a particular area by the Chief Inspector of Factories. Next we'll talk about manufacturing process. Manufacturing process means any process for making, altering, repairing, ornamenting, finishing, packing, oiling, washing, cleaning, breaking up, demolishing, or otherwise treating or adopting any article or substances with a view to use its sale, with a view to its use, sale, transport, delivery, or disposal. Pumping oil, water or sewage or any other substance, or generating, transforming or transmitting power, or composing types for printing by lateral process, lithography, or other similar process, or book binding. So all these would come under manufacturing process. Next is worker. Worker means any person who is employed directly or through an agency, including a contractor. So there could be two types of workers. One which is directly employed by the employer, and another is through the contractor. With or without the knowledge of the principal employer, whether for wages or not, in any manufacturing process or in cleaning any part of the machinery or premises used for manufacturing process, or in any kind of work incidental to, connected with the manufacturing process, or subject of manufacturing process, but does not include any member of the armed forces of the union. So this is about the worker. Now next we come when we talk about factory. What is a factory? Factory is any premises where 10 or more workers are working or were working on any part of the day of the preceding 12 months, and in any part of which manufacturing process is being carried out with the aid of power or is ordinarily carried out. This is the first definition. That means 10 or more persons who are working in any calendar year for the preceding 12 months with the aid of the power. So there is a electricity there. Next we'll talk about the second definition, where it says 20 or more workers are working or were working on any day of the preceding 12 months and in any part of which manufacturing process is being carried on without the aid of power or is ordinarily carried on so. So if with the aid of power the process or the working is being conducted, then you need 10 persons. Without the aid of power, 20 or more persons. Right? So next we'll talk about occupier. Occupier means of a factory means a person who has the ultimate control over the affairs of the factory. Relay and shift, where the work of the same kind is carried out by two or more set of workers working during different periods of the day. Each of such set is called relay and each of such period is called shift. So when you are working by more than two or more set of workers who are working during the different period of the day, then each of this set is called a relay and such period is called a shift. Right? So from say from 10 to 1 it's one shift, 2 to 5 it's another shift. Right? Hazardous process means any person or activity in relation to an industry is specified in its first schedule, where unless a special care is taken, raw material used therein or the intermediate or finished products, byproducts, waste or effluents thereof would cause material impairment to the health of the persons engaged or in connected herewith, or results in pollution of the general environment. So if it results to the health problems of the workers, or it pollutes to the environment, then it will be a hazardous process which is involved in the manufacturing process, or any byproduct or any finished products, etc., which is involved in the manufacturing process. Now let's talk about the inspectors. We talk about chapter 2. So chapter 1 spoke about, or chapter 1 gives you the details about the basic definitions. Chapter 2 would give you the details about the inspectors. Now, the Act has the provisions of 6 inspectors, namely inspectors, chief inspectors, additional inspectors, additional chief inspectors, joint inspectors, and deputy chief inspectors. So the state government, by the official gazette, may appoint such persons who possess the required prerequisite qualifications that the state government may deem fit. The chief inspector, who shall be appointed in addition to powers of the inspector throughout the state, every district magistrate shall be an inspector for his district. So every district magistrate would be an inspector. The state government may, through notification, may appoint such public officers as it deems fit. Now, what are the powers of the inspector? The inspectors may exercise the following powers, such as enter any premises of the factory, enter the premises of any factory with any of the assistants, and inspect whatever he thinks is fit. Whatever he thinks fit could be, it could be dangerous or it could be hazardous to the factory. Or if you find something which is not normal, he can inspect. He can examine the premises, plant, machinery, article, substance, require the production of any prescribed register or any documents related to the attendance, related to any provisions of the factory, relating to the child labor, relating to any sort of employment or any other activities which are being performed in the factory. So the inspector, the powers of the inspectors, which has been given in section 9. Now, section 10 states about the certifying surgeons. Who are certifying surgeons? Certifying surgeons, they are appointed by the state governments, and they are appointed within every certifying surgeon should be a qualified medical practitioner. They are appointed within the specified local limits or act within the certain factory or within a certain class of factory. Their jurisdiction would be separated region wise or group wise. So these surgeons, they have to examine, they have to give the certificates to the employees whenever it is necessary, right? What are the duties of the certifying surgeons? Certifying surgeons, they examine the young persons. They give the certificates that who are the young persons, whether they are young or not, whether they are child or not, whether the child is healthy or not, right? If there is an illness, then the certifying surgeon would give the certificate. If the surgeon thinks that this person is not fit to do a particular job or particular work that is being carried out in the manufacturing process, then he would give the necessary documents or necessary certificates. Now next we'll talk about the health. The health of the workers is talked in chapter 3 of the Factories Act. It talks about cleanliness, it talks about ventilations, temperatures, dust and fumes, the artificial humidification, overcrowding, lighting, drinking water, latrines and urinals, and spittoons. So cleanliness has been defined in section 11 of this act, which says that every factory shall be kept clean and free from the effluents arising from any drains, privy or any other nuisance, etc. The accumulation of the dirt and refuse shall be removed daily by sweeping or by any other effective methods from the floors and benches of the workrooms and from staircases and passages and disposed of in a suitable manner. The floor of every workroom shall be cleaned at least every once in a week. Similarly, if the floor is liable to become wet in due course of manufacturing process, then it should be effectively cleaned and drained. Next, we'll talk about disposal of waste and effluents according to section 12. It provides that there should be an effective arrangements in every factory for the disposal of waste and effluents, so that the manufacturing process is carried out in a smooth way. Next section 13 talks about ventilation and temperatures. It talks about adequate ventilation by circulation of fresh airs. Every factory should maintain in every workroom adequate ventilation by circulation of fresh air at temperature which will secure the workers within the reasonable conditions of comfort and prevent any injury to the health. So the temperatures should be maintained to a level which is it does not causes any discomfort to the workers. The workers should be comfortable working with. In case the nature of work is carried out on a factory which involves or is likely to involve the production of excessive high temperatures, such adequate measures as are practicable shall be taken to protect the workers thereof by separating the process which produces such temperatures from workroom by insulating the hot parts or by any other effective means. Next, we talk about dust and fumes, which is there in section 14, which says that every factory in which by reasons of manufacturing process is carried out or given off any dust or fumes are being given off in any of the manufacturing process, in such a case where it is likely to cause an injury or offensive to the workers employed in any factories, effective measures shall be taken to prevent the inhalation and accumulation in any of the workroom, and if any exhaust appliances is necessary for this purpose, it shall be applied as near as possible to the point of origin of the dust, fumes or any other impurity, and such point shall be enclosed so far as possible. So it says that the dust and fumes, if at all the process requires the dust and fumes, then effective measures should be taken to remove such dust and fumes by placing exhaust fans or any other appliances which could remove the dust and the fumes. Next, section 15 talks about the artificial humidifications. It says that where the humidity of the air has to be increased artificially, then there should be a prescribed regulations, prescribed standards for humidifications, regulating the methods used for artificially increasing the humidity of the air, and directing the prescribed tests for determining the humidity of the air to be correctly carried out and recorded. So if at all a process requires humidifications or artificial humidity has to be increased for any of the process, then adequate measures has to be taken to increase the humidity. In any other factory where the humidity of the air is artificially increased and the water is used for the purpose shall be taken from the public supply, or any other source of drinking water shall be effectively purified before it is to be used for the artificial humidification. So it's an important clause. Next, section 16, it talks about overcrowding. It says that no room in any factory shall be overcrowded to an extent which causes injury to the health of the workers employed. The chief inspector may in writing prescribe the maximum number of workers for a particular factory, and such a notice shall be pasted in each workroom. Next, section 17 talks about lighting. It says that in every part of the factory where workers are working or passing, there shall be provided and maintained sufficient or suitable lighting, natural or artificial or both. So adequate arrangements of lighting has to be maintained as per section 17 of the Factories Act 1948. Next, according to section 18, it talks about drinking water. It says that water is being among the foremost necessities of life. Special provisions have been made for the adequate supply of proper drinking water to the factory workers. The Act provides that in every factory effective arrangements shall be made to provide and maintain at suitable point conveniently situated for all workers employed therein a sufficient supply of wholesome water. So it says that there should be sufficient supply of drinking water. And then in continuation, it says that all such points shall be legally marked drinking water in a language which is understood by majority of the workers employed in the factory, and no such point shall be situated within 6 meters of the washing place, urinals, latrines, spittoons, open drain carrying the effluents or any other source of contamination unless a shortened distance is approved in writing by the chief inspector. Every factory where more than 250 workers are working, provisions shall be made for cooling drinking waters during the hot weather by effective means and for distribution thereof. So in case if more than 250 workers are working, then there should be adequate measures for cool water or cold water during the hot weather. And wherever the drinking water facility is there, then there should be a minimum distance of 6 meters from the urinals, the latrines, the spittoons, and any other place where there is contamination. Right. Next, according to section 19, it talks about latrines and urinals. It says that sufficient latrines and urinals accommodation of prescribed types shall be provided and conveniently situated and accessible to the workers all the times while they are in the factory. So in every factory where there are more than 250 workers who are working, then all latrines and urinal accommodations shall be prescribed of sanitary types. The floors, it says the floors of internal walls up to a height of 90 centimeters of the latrines and urinals and the sanitary blocks shall be laid in glazed tile or otherwise finished to provide a smooth polished surface. Next, it says the floors portion of the walls and the blocks so laid or finished and the sanitary pans of the latrines and urinals shall be thoroughly washed and cleaned at least once in every 7 days with suitable detergents or disinfectants or with both. So according to this act, according to section 19, if there are more than 250 workers in any factory, then the floor of the internal walls of the latrines up to 90 centimeters shall be laid in glazed tiles or any other material so that it provides a polished and a smooth surface. Now, according to section 20 of this act, it talks about spittoons. Every factory there shall be provided a sufficient number of spittoons in convenient places, and they shall be maintained in clean and hygienic conditions. The state government may make rules prescribing the type and the number of spittoons to be provided and their locations in any factory, and provide for such further matters relating to the maintenance in clean and hygienic conditions. So there is also a penalty If a person who contravenes this act of not spitting inside a spittoon shall be subject to punishment of a fine not exceeding ₹5. Next, we'll talk about chapter 4, which talks about the safety of the workers. Section 21 talks about fencing of the machinery. All the machines should be fenced. Then, according to section 23, it talks about the employment of young persons on dangerous machines. There are certain categories, certain list of dangerous machines which have been given in under this section. Then section according to section 30, it talks about revolving machineries. Section 34 talks about excessive weights. That means it says that no persons shall be employed in any factory to lift, carry or move any load so heavy as likely to cause him injury. According to section 32, every factory should have floors and staircases, or in every factory where all the floors or floor steps, stairs, passages shall be of a sound construction and properly maintained, and whenever necessary they shall be provided with handrails. Also, so far as it is reasonably practicable, there shall be provided and maintained safe means to access to every place at which any person at any time is required to work. So it says that all wherever there are floors, there are staircases, there are passages, the construction should be sound, the construction should not be faulty, and if necessary there should be handrails, there should be railings. Next, according to section 35, there should be protection of eyes, which says that the state government shall make rules regarding the protection of the eyes of the workers in any factory. Effective screens or suitable goggles shall be provided to the workers to protect the eyes from the injuries by reasons of exposure to excessive light or particles or fragments thrown off in course of manufacturing process. So any of the manufacturing process which requires which require, or where there is an exposure of the eyes to such hazardous particles, the goggles should be provided by the occupier, and it does not say that not only the goggles should be provided, but there should be a proper information which should be given to the workers regarding the definite use of the goggles and where these goggles are kept. Not just if you keep the goggles in the workrooms and your job is over, or the occupier's job is over. It's not like that. So according to section 40B, the state government may appoint safety officers, where the state government may in its opinion think that manufacturing process or operations is carried out, or which process or operations involves high risk of body injury, poisoning or disease, or any other hazard to health to the persons employed in the factory, the occupier shall, if so required by the state government, by notification in the official gazette, employ such number of safety officers as may be specified in the notification. Now, according to chapter 5 of the Factories Act, it talks about the welfare of the employees. According to section 42, it talks about the washing facilities. It says that adequate and suitable facilities for washing shall be provided and maintained for the use of workmen. According to section 43, it says there should be a facility for storing and drying clothes. That means that the workers can keep their clothes in a safe place, as well as they can wash, and there should be a provision to dry their wet clothes. Next, according to section 44, there should be a sitting arrangements, there should be a sitting facility. Now according to section 45, there should be a first aid box. It says that in every factory where there are more than 500 workers are employed, there shall be provided and maintained an ambulance room of the prescribed size containing the prescribed equipments in the charge of a medical and nursing staff, or as may be prescribed. Right? So in case if there are more than 500 workers, then there should be an ambulance room. Apart from that, every factory shall be provided and maintained during all accessible working hours with a first aid box, or inside a cupboard there should be prescribed medicines, prescribed contents, or whatever are the necessary medicines used for the first aid. They should be kept in the first aid box. Next, we'll talk about canteen as per section 46. In case where there are more than 250 workers who are ordinarily employed, there has to be a canteen, there has to be a provision of canteen where there are more than 250 employees. Now, in case, according to section 47, it talks about shelter, restrooms and lunchrooms. It says that in case if there are more than 150 workers, then there should be adequate and suitable shelters or restrooms and a suitable lunchroom with the provisions for drinking water where the workers can eat their meals brought by them shall be provided and maintained for the use of the workers. Creches or nurseries, according to section 48, in case where there are more than 30 women employees who are employed, a suitable room or rooms shall be provided and maintained for the use of their children who are under the age of 6 years. Such rooms shall be properly kept under the charge of a woman trained in the care of the children and infants, and it shall be maintained in a clean and there should be a clean sanitary conditions. Now, in case according to section 48, if there are more than 500 workers in any factory, then there should be a welfare officer. Now, next, according to chapter 6, it talks about the working conditions, the working hours of the workers. According to section 51, no adult workers shall be required or allowed to work in a factory for more than 48 hours in any week. So the maximum hours a worker can work in a particular week is 48 hours. However, the section does not prohibit the alteration of hours of work after the department transfer. So in case if you're working in any department which requires to work for 42 hours and then you are transferred to a department where you are required to work for 48 hours, you cannot complain and you cannot ask for the overtime. Next, according to section 54, it says that no worker shall be allowed to work in a factory for more than 9 hours. Right? Further, it says that the first day of the week shall be a weekly holiday, and a worker cannot be required or allowed to work in a factory on his weekly holiday. If at all he is required to work, subject to which he will have a holiday for the whole day on one of the 3 days immediately before or after the weekly holiday. Right? Next condition is the manager of the factory has before the set day or before the substitution day under clause 1, that is the holiday which is to be taken 3 days immediately before or 3 days immediately after a weekly holiday. Whichever is earlier delivered a notice at the office of inspectors to his intention to require the workers on the said day and the day which is to be substituted, and is also displayed a notice to the effect in the factory. So it says that no worker would be allowed to work for more than 9 hours. Further, it says that the first day of the week, that is Sunday, would be a holiday. If at all the worker has been called to work on Sunday, then he should be given a holiday, or he should be given the leave either 3 days before Sunday or 3 days after Sunday. And the factory manager, obeys the laws. He pastes the notice of the workers' holiday in the office of the inspector. Now next, according to section 53, it talks about compensatory holidays. It says that if a worker has been deprived of any of the weekly holidays, the first day of the weeks, he shall be allowed within a month in which the holidays were due to him, or within 2 months immediately following that month, a compensatory holiday of equal number of holidays so lost. It is the state government which is empowered to prescribe the manner in which holidays shall be allowed. So in case if the worker has not been given a holiday, where there was a holiday, then he is liable for the compensatory off in the next month or within the 2 months. So this is about compensatory holidays. Next we'll talk about, according to section 55, it talks about the intervals and for rest. It says that the period of the adult workers in any factory shall be so fixed that no period shall exceed 5 hours, and no worker shall work for more than 5 hours before he had an interval for rest of at least half an hour. So in continuation you cannot work for more than 5 hours, and after 5 hours you need a rest of at least half an hour, unless it has been provided, a written statement has been given by the chief inspector or the state government. Next, according to section 56, it talks about the spread over. Spread over means the time of the work of an adult worker in a factory shall so be arranged that inclusive of his intervals for rest, they shall not spread over for more than 10.5 hours in any day. So that means inclusive of all the intervals and all the time he has spent in factory on any day shall not exceed more than 10.5 hours. But however, the chief inspector of can increase the spread over to at least 12 hours. We have the provisions according to section 56. Now next is section 57. It talks about night shift. It says that where a worker in a factory works on a shift which extends beyond midnight for the purpose of section 52-53, holiday for the whole day shall mean in his case period of 24 consecutive hours beginning when his shift ends. The following day for him shall be deemed to be the period of 24 hours beginning when such shift ends, and the hours he has worked after midnight shall be counted in the previous day. So it says that if a person has worked beyond the midnight, then he would not be called for the work before 24 hours. So it says that there should be a holiday for at least 24 hours. That is for the night shifts. Now according to section 58, it talks about prohibition of overlapping shift, which says that workers shall not be carried out Work shall not be carried out in any factory by means of a system of shifts so arranged that more than one relay of workers is engaged in work of same kind and at same time. So there says that there has to be a prohibition. The overlapping of the shifts is prohibited according to section 58. Next, we'll talk about extra income for overtime. It says that when a worker in a factory has worked for more than 9 hours in a day or for more than 48 hours in a week, then he is liable for the overtime work. That is twice the wage which he is getting. So twice the wage means that his basic would be doubled. That is according to section 59. According to section 60, there is it prohibits or it says no to double employment. It says no adult worker shall be required or allowed to work in any factory on any day on which he has already been working in another factory. Now, there is further restrictions on the employment of women. It says that no woman shall be required to work in any factory except between 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. So the working hours of women is from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. according to Factories Act. Right? Next, we'll talk about the laws regarding the employment of young persons, young persons in a factory. So it says that it is according to chapter 7, which talks about the employment of young persons. So a person or a child who is below 14, who is below the age of 14 years, the child or a person is completely prohibited to be employed. If the child has completed 14 years, then he may be employed subject to certain restrictions on his employment. Now, what are these restrictions? According to section 69, non-adult workers have to carry token. A child who has completed 14 years of age, or a child who is an adolescent, shall not be required to work in any factory unless a certificate of fitness has been granted under section 69, and such a child carries a token or a reference card according to section 68. Now, what is a certificate of fitness? According to section 69, it provides, or it says that there should be a certificate of fitness which should be provided by the certifying surgeon. They should examine the young person and should give the certificate. Now, who can make an application for a certificate, or who can apply for the certificate? The young person himself, the guardian, his parents, or the factory manager. What is the duration of this certificate? The duration of the certificate is 12 months. And according to section 69, who would be liable for the fee of the certificate? It will be the occupier of the factory. Now, according to section 71, it says the working hour for the children, which says that no child shall be employed or permitted to work in any factory for more than 4.5 hours in a day and during the night. Night means period of at least 12 consecutive hours, which shall include the interval between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. So no child would be allowed to work during these hours. However, in case of female children, the timings are from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. That means the female child, they cannot work except between 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. According to section 72, a notice and display of work of children has to be maintained, and it should be displayed on the walls of the factory that such this child is employed and this is his working hour. Now, as per section 75, the register of the child workers has to be maintained, where the name of each child has to be there, the nature of his work, the group to which he belongs, the certificate of fitness, etc. They have to be maintained. Next, we'll talk about general provisions regarding to the leaves according to section 79, which says that every worker who has worked for a period of 240 days or more in a factory during the calendar year shall be allowed during the subsequent calendar year a leave with a wage for a number of days calculated as the rate of, in case of adult, a day for every 20 days of work performed by him during the previous calendar year, and if a child, 1 day for every 15 days of the work performed by him during the previous calendar year. So every 15 days a child is subject to a child can prevail the leaves, and an adult in every 20 days. Although there are some restrictions, some conditions which I'm not going to discuss right now. According to section section 81, it says the payments can be granted in advance in certain cases. Now let's talk about the diseases laws, notice for diseases mentioned in the schedule of the Factories Act 1948. It says that a person who has been, according to section 90, a worker in a factory contracts any disease, the manager of the factory shall send the notice thereof to such authorities and in such forms and within such time as may be described. Any medical practitioner attending to such diseased worker shall without delay send a report in writing to the office of the chief inspector stating the name and full postal address of the person or the patient, disease from which he believes the patient is suffering from, and the name and address of the factory in which the patient was last employed. So if the factory, if the worker comes in contact with any or the patient, or sorry, the worker, he contracts any disease, then the details of the disease should be sent out to the chief inspector. Finally, a medical practitioner shall send a report. If a medical practitioner fails to make a report to the chief inspector, then he shall be punishable with a fine which may extend to rupees 50. According to section 91, it empowers the inspector to take samples at any time during the normal working hours of the factory and informing the occupier or the manager of the factory or any other person for the time being purporting to be in charge of the factory, take in the manner hereinafter provided a sufficient sample of any substance used or intended to be used in the factory, such a sample which according to the inspector believes that there is something wrong going on in the factory, which may cause bodily injury or injury to the health of the workers, or or any other for any other reason, the inspector has the full authority to take the samples as per section 91. Now, the sample taken by the inspector shall be divided into 3 portions, and the same will be effectively sealed and marked. Apart from that, the owner of the factory or the manager of the factory shall also be allowed to put his seal on the sample container. Right? So the inspector shall give the one portion of the sample to the factory owner or the occupier. If you talk about the legal terms, it will be occupier or the manager of the factory. Second portion would be sent to the government analyst, and the third one would be sent to the court. Section 92 talks about the general provisions to the punishment, which says that if the factory owner is involved in any of the offense, or if the factory owner is guilty of an offense, then it should be punishable, and there should be an imprisonment for a term which may extend up to 2 years, or a fine which may extend to rupees 1 lakh, or both, or if contravention is continued after conviction, with a further fine which may extend to rupees 1000 on each day for which the contravention is continued. So it talks about the punishment, general provisions of the punishment. Similarly, it also says if there is if it has resulted in an accident and which causes death of the employee, or causes a bodily injury, then in case if a person dies, then there should be a compensation of rupees 25,000. However, in case there is a bodily injury, then there should be a compensation of rupees 500. Bodily injury means permanent injury to any limb, or loss of sight or hearing, or a fracture of any bone, which will not include fracture of a bone or joint, or of any phalanges of the hand or foot. So it does not include the fracture of joints and the phalanges, that is near the fingers and the toes of the hands and foot. Now, according to section 93, it says that any premises, if the separate buildings are leased out to different occupiers for the use of separate factories, the owners of the premises shall be responsible for the provisions and maintenance of common facilities and services such as roads, drainage, water supply, lighting and sanitation. So if the land is leased out to different owners, then all the owners will collectively be responsible for the common facilities. Next, according to section 97, it says that any workers employed in a factory contravenes with the provisions of this act or any rules of the orders made thereunder imposing any duty or liability on workers, he shall be punishable with a fine which may extend to rupees 20. So if the person is not adhering to such provisions such as usage of latrines, urinals, cleanliness, etc., then there should be he could be liable for punishment which may not extend rupees 20. Now next, if a person who uses false certificates of fitness shall be punishable with with 1 month's imprisonment or rupees 50 as a fine. If a child is sent to another factory on any other day after working in one, his parent or guardian shall be punishable with a fine of up to rupees 50. So in case if a child goes to one factory and then after one factory he goes to another factory, then he shall be punishable with a fine which may be which could be rupees 50.